Welcome back to another episode of The Runway. We got a lot to unpack today. I'm your host, Matty Ice, and guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome. Hi, everyone. This is GDK holding up the accounting perspective.
What's up, everyone? Alessandro here. I'm Alessandro, etc. on X.
Hey, everyone. This is Jack checking in on the Naples vibe.
All right, guys, a lot has happened today. It looks like the Genius Act has passed. It looks like we've got some new legislation through here. It looked like it was bipartisan as well. I know last episode at the very end, we kind of talked about how a lot of Democrats voted against the procedural vote at the end, but I guess that wasn't the final vote. So, I mean, all these chambers of Congress, it's so complicated how shit actually works. There's, reconciliation, and some votes need 60 and some votes need 50. And, some stuff has to go from the House and has to go back to the Senate. And there's just all this crazy stuff. But it was nice to see some level of bipartisan support. Essentially, all Republicans voted for this. And obviously, they put this bill through. But there was, I want to say close to 100 Democrats maybe that went across and kind of joined the party. So that at least was very nice to see. Still, maybe half to most of Democrats still opposing, but it's nice to see some people waking up and getting on board with the whole. We're going to lead in the USA, and we're going to be at the forefront of technology. Paul, can you pull up this take here by Autism Capital of David Sachs' speech from today? I actually watched this earlier, but it's really good.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you, President Trump. It's a great honor to be here, and it's true that I'd never expected to work in government at all, and then everything changed after President Trump came on my podcast, and I accepted this job as crypto czar because I thought it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to work for a president who really wants to get things done for the American people, and if anything, that's been an understatement. The first 6 months of this administration have been more successful than any administration in American history. What's been done? It's just been incredible. President Trump has worked at tech speed. We're used to working fast in Silicon Valley, but even this is fast for us in Silicon Valley, the speed at which you move President Trump. It's really incredible. And now today, you have another historic legislative achievement that is a monumental step to fulfilling your promise to making the United States the crypto capital of the world. This Genius Act will unlock American dominance in the crypto industry by creating clear rules of the road. It will update archaic payment rails with a revolutionary new payment system, and it will extend U.S. dollar dominance, like you said, globally, by creating a digital dollar that people all over the world can use. And for every digital dollar in a crypto wallet, there'll be a traditional dollar in a U.S. bank account, which will create trillions of dollars of demand for U.S. treasuries. So that is the power of this bill, is U.S. dollar dominance. This is a huge promise made and promise kept by President Trump. And there's just a few other people I'd like to thank. First, my family for being here. Thank you. And Bo Hines, who President Trump mentions, the director of our crypto council, he really did the heavy lifting here. So, Bo, I just want to thank you again. And my chief of staff, Tracy Johnson, as well, who also does the heavy lifting. And Bill Hagerty and French Hill and all the congressmen and senators who have already been mentioned by President Trump, so I'll save the time, but it was really been an honor to work with all of you. This was really a team effort, but most of all, I want to thank President Trump for accomplishing what nobody thought was possible, and it's true that just earlier this week, the media was reporting that this bill was dead. This bill was dead, and then the media didn't know one thing, that we had a secret weapon. We have a deal maker in chief, and thanks to President Trump, he stepped in and saved this bill. And it's because of your vision, your leadership, your determination, your skill that we're all here today. So thank you very much, President Trump.
Wow. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
What was the dissenting? What would have been the dissenting vote? Sorry,
I think it was.
Sorry, Kyle.
You mean for this legislation?
Yeah, like who would have held that up?
I think it was
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren and most of the Democrats, I believe.
So that group is still somehow vibrant. They're thinking they've got their fingers.
Yeah, so roughly half of the Democratic Party
I think
plus.
the concern on the Democratic Party is that some of the tokenization, legislature in there would allow the skirting of some SEC regulations. I mean, at least that's what she said. I don't necessarily know if that's how the bill is written, but her concern was basically like, what does this mean for SEC regulations and investor protection? And so, the other side would be like, hey, we want to protect the investor. We want to move slow. We want to sort of like eventually fill this with thousands of pages of legislation that no one understands.
I didn't take a word at what she says as face value. She's been a constant obstacle to progress and innovation.
Well, it is scare tactics, right? To basically say like, hey, like, this is gonna, harm the everyday investor and that sort of stuff. Like
it's the anti-crypto army.
I mean,
people react with fear.
It's always going to be devils in the details because, in one way, this could just be written to change a bunch of the current stuff from analog to digital. And yeah, there's weaknesses in there, but that could be one of the ways it's written in the background. The other thing I'm a little bit afraid of is, moved so fast, and this is fast even for tech, and tech moves fast. And so that kind of makes me afraid that there was something that was shoved in one of the many pages of it that's going to be a problem later on.
Luckily, we have AI now that can just like go through all that. I'm pretty sure they did that with a couple of the other stuff where they just like, AI, read this and give me the tea here. What are they hiding in here? And you can usually find it out now. It's kind of funny.
Maybe I was watching some videos that AI sometimes is lazy as well and won't read everything.
Yeah, you have to instruct it. Read every word.
Yeah, you basically have to give it like one page at a time, saying, read it all the way. Read it all the way.
Yeah.
AI does the breezing. That's funny. That's hilarious.
I think it was 3 different bills that got passed, right?
There's 3 different bills right now that they're trying to work on. One is an anti-CBDC. The other one is the Genius Act. And then the other one is, I want to call it like Clarity or something. Some Clarity Act, something along those lines.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the Clarity Act might still, I think it's probably going to pass. It just needs some more work. It has to go back. I don't understand all the intricacies of the political process of that, but it seems like they do have the votes to get it through. It's just not going to happen right now because it needs to go back to the Senate or something's going on there.
And even with my comments, I'm for this. Like our financial institution framework is way out of date.
Yeah.
And it needs to be brought up. Like I believe they're having an issue where they don't have engineers that know the old languages that this was all built off. They don't have anyone. Yeah, for most of it. Yeah, they don't have anyone to replace them, so they have to get updated because there's no way you can perpetuate the system.
Yeah. The other thing that's really fascinating and interesting is that there's obviously we look at the debt and see how high it's going, and it's obviously very concerning. And the dollar has been losing value this year. The dollar has been on kind of a decline. Part of that is
it's been doing that for 100 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, compared to other fiat currencies even. And part of that reason, obviously, is to make our exports more attractive. And I know that's been a big part of Trump's agenda with the tariffs. And we want to start manufacturing things here. And when your currency kind of goes down, it's actually a good thing if you're trying to export.
In a perspective. A certain perspective.
So, that's why China always is trying to devalue their currency because they always want to make, it more attractive to do business in China. So there's part of that and, this gradual decline and debasement. But this legislation is now going to create a massive new demand for, treasury bills, right? So this is the Trump administration's roundabout way to basically say, we're going to continue to be the world reserve currency. I think Trump actually even had some statements on that, saying it would be, terrible if we lost that reserve currency status. So I think this does extend that reserve currency status for at least another decade, at the very minimum. That's my, kind of hot take on this. It's kind of this countervailing force, and I think, of course, the big print, they will print more money, right? The question is, do you have somebody that has demand to buy that debt, and it looks like they're basically opening that up to the entire world's economy, which there's plenty of third world countries that are going to want stable coins and access to that fiat currency on blockchains that's permissionless, right? So if you could just generate a wallet, you can now have stable coins in your wallet, which is like a bank account. So it's just a brilliant way to just circumvent the, current outdated financial system and bring in billions of people on the planet.
Well, I'm kind of curious what's going to happen because I believe some of the central agencies have a black book when it comes to their funds getting moved around. Now, if it all gets thrown on the blockchain,
that's not good for them. Yeah,
right. Is there now going to be an audit trail for that?
I just listened to that podcast with Tucker Carlson and the what's his name, Daryl Cooper, I think.
The guy that's getting sentenced to prison?
No, this is the guy that's he said some pretty radical things about World War II, and he's got some issues with his history. He's a little off there, saying we could have had peace with Hitler and all this shit. But he did some great reporting work on this whole situation with the Epstein case. But a lot of it is Epstein was essentially, which was my analysis, is he's tied to intelligence somehow. He's doing a lot of this black ops stuff for probably multiple different agencies. And, when the CIA, what I do agree with is when the CIA and the FBI, when they were, back in the day, they were doing all this cavalier, crazy stuff that we're seeing unsealed. Well, they got more pressure on them to essentially stop doing that. And Mike Pence has blown the lid off this. So all these NGOs and this is kind of how they outsource it. So it seems like, from what I think, is Epstein was one of those outsourced kind of guys, keep them at arm's length, but they can do things for different intelligence agencies, kind of like a mercenary type situation for, whether it's Mossad or whether it's, the UK intelligence through the Epstein, through the, what's the other guy's name, the Maxwell people or whatever. And so it really does seem like what Epstein's role was kind of that guy who kind of like makes funds disappear, and funds pop up over here and they go over there, and
So a laundry machine.
pretty much, yeah. He's and that's kind of, if you look at his connections to all these wealthy people. There's he was kind of like the money guy. He was moving shit around, and he got the foreign bank accounts, and he's doing all that stuff. And now if all this money comes on blockchain, like that's a whole, and it's on public blockchains, that's a whole new level of transparency, right?
Yeah.
Which is like good for like the mom who's trying to like spend $20 to buy fucking groceries for the week in Uganda, right? But not so good for the fucking billionaire, pedophile who wants to move $100 million, and hide it and put it here, right? So it is very interesting. It is very, very interesting. So that's why I think like all this stuff is so important for so many reasons, where like, you can have this level of transparency, but also have levels of privacy for smaller individual people who are just trying to live their life.
Right. I was just
well,
about
at the
to say,
same time have, hey, people notice when hundreds of millions or millions of dollars are moved on blockchains, but nobody's like paying attention to $10, $20 transactions, and people are just living their lives, $1,000, $20,000. No one worries about that.
Well, yeah, but now you also have AI that will go and harass those people about any of those transactions. Like if I go to Publix, and for some reason some radical leftist hates Publix for whatever reason, now all of a sudden they can see I'm giving them money, whereas before.
Well, this is why we need, and this is why this whole, another aspect of what's happening right now is this Tornado Cash trial is actually in trial and it's being prosecuted, and this is a prime example of why these smaller privacy preserving technologies are super important, right? Because you can put your funds into a mixer and you can have that level of privacy. You don't want anybody knowing, where you went shopping and all this stuff. Now, if you try to move $100 million into a mixer, millions of dollars, guess what? It's a lot harder to hide millions of dollars, but it's a lot easier when there's 1,000 people, 5,000 people putting in 500, 1,000, 200, 800 into this mixer, and it mixes it all up. But if you try to move millions of dollars through it, you're gonna raise some eyebrows, and there's really no way to spit that out on the other side where it's kind of like hidden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
it's like that wallet that had 80,000 Bitcoin that they started to move it. And, there's people who are literally tracking
everybody's tracking it, but at the end of the day, we still don't know who it is, right? We kind of but people are watching it and they're drawing attention to it, and at some point, that could get identified if it's ever sold or if something happens, and you know what I mean?
Well, there's that company that basically does that type of work. It's Block something. We had
they spoke at our meetup.
Yeah,
at one
but I
point.
can't remember the name of them. It's like block analysis or something.
Chain analysis.
Chain analysis. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, there's already people doing that, and which is good if they're going after the Epsteins of the world. But if they're going after the grandmas of the world, well, then no, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But like you said, it comes to a point with the materiality of the actual transfer of the funds before people might start paying attention.
We have a comment. Someone said he's intelligence. Actually, after listening to Tucker and this guy's podcast, my thought is he's like the arm's length intelligence. He's that mercenary guy, just like kind of Ghislaine Maxwell's dad apparently was. They did a lot of history on him, and I guess he fled the Soviets, he fled Hitler, and he was like, he fought in World War II very bravely, won a bunch of medals and stuff, and then he became, did a media empire, and then he did kind of like private intelligence stuff, and he was doing stuff for Israel, and this is kind of like why they say like this guy, it just seemed like he was kind of like a covert dark ops kind of like black ops guy that did these kind of jobs and different things. And I think Epstein was something very similar, and I think there's ties there. I bet you the Five Eyes, all these different kind of Western intelligence agencies probably have a group of mercenaries they use to do things that, they technically can't do. And I think somebody mentioned there was even a law that's like, hey, as long as we don't find out about it, like you can do it, where like the CIA is doing drug running and all this type of crazy shit. So I think that's probably
plausible deniability.
Yeah. I think that's kind of, but they said like, if we don't find out about it, you can get away with it or something like that. And that's kind of what these intelligence agencies have learned to do.
I don't think there's a law of, if the government doesn't find out, it's not illegal. I don't think.
Well, if you're there is some kind of intelligence agency specific legislation about this. I don't know all of the firm details.
Yeah, you can be protected if you hire an agency and then they go off the rails. You're not 100% liable for everything that they do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I don't think that should be a thing, because yeah, you want somebody ultimately liable, like no
Of
matter
course.
what.
I'm just saying this is the way it is. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Right, I'm giving my opinion. Like, no,
Yeah.
someone has to be liable because it makes you
course.
real invested to not let it happen.
Yeah.
But I think your comment on taking it back to the treasuries, I mean, I do think 30-year treasuries are at they crossed 5% this week. So
Wow.
the timing is pretty awesome for this to come in and start generating
Yeah.
demand.
There's going to be huge demand for that.
Pull that yield.
Just because
down.
there's, half the planet like has access to so much worse that like the dollar to them is like, oh shit. Even if it's inflating 20% a year, that's like, huge. That's like still better than having it inflate 50% a week, right? So
Well,
so
the markets love this so far
Yeah.
because all the cryptocurrencies have been rallying.
Yeah.
We hit all-time
Yeah.
highs with
Yeah.
Bitcoin of 121, I think,
something like
this
that,
week,
yeah.
earlier today.
So Ernst here says Acosta was told to leave him alone. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about a couple weeks ago, which was this guy. I think he was like a prosecutor in Florida at the time. They basically said,
Jim Acosta?
no, I think it's Alex Acosta,
Alex
and he was
Acosta, okay.
basically what they at the time. I mean, this is what's claimed. He's kind of like denied this after. It's hard to get a firm answer on this because like at the time he supposedly told somebody this, but I haven't been able to substantiate the actual story. Like it's just kind of like a he said, she said, and it seems like there's some smoke there, but I haven't seen the fire yet. But recently he's been asked about it, and he's kind of like gives a non-answer, like kind of like says no, you know what I mean? Kind of gives a non-answer.
It's the classic
it's
scapegoating, right?
It's the classic
'Cause,
kind of
what Daryl Cooper, the point he made was anyone able to tell him what to do would have had to been either the attorney general or someone of that position, because nobody's going to tell the prosecutor, essentially to stand down. They have to have some kind of a, superiority. And what we're seeing with Pam Bondi now, just kind of echoes all of that. So I think he is pleading the fifth because he doesn't want to get implicated. But it's clear as day that this is going to reveal a lot. And I don't think we should let off.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that he was connected to intelligence. I mean, if you look at the sweetheart deal he got and all these different things, I think it's very obvious. He had some, he was very useful to certain people that in high places, whether it was, laundering money, doing certain things, honey traps for intelligence agencies, all these different things. I think there's tons of circumstantial evidence of all this if you just put everything together. So I think that's very obvious, and it just, and then today, what happened apparently was just like, which is, we're not used to phony intelligence. Obviously, Tulsi Gabbard is revealing today that like she's declassifying files about kind of all the manufactured politicized intelligence that they use to construct against Trump, whether it's the Steele dossier or Russiagate and all these different fucking hoaxes and collusions and fake intelligence reports they made up. It looks like another one has dropped today, which is and I think this is what Trump was. I think he had advance notice of this, and I think this is why he's been saying what he's saying. This is just my personal opinion, all over his social and stuff, which is like apparently some letter from 2003 that he wrote Jeffrey Epstein he was like drawing a picture or something. Yeah. It's just it's been vehemently denied. There has been no evidence provided, and I think what they said today was Trump is. I guess they're suing the Wall Street Journal because the Wall Street Journal doesn't even have. He's like, well, where's the letter? They're like, we don't have it. What do you mean you don't have it? Well, somebody told us. It's just trust me, bro. So they ran with this fucking story with zero evidence from like some supposed letter from 30 years ago. That's like, Trump drawing a picture and stuff. And like, they just don't have anything. They just basically, it's just propaganda essentially to try to like poison the narrative. So I think Trump had advance notice this was coming. And I think that's kind of why he's been saying all this shit. So, I don't find it far-fetched at all, looking at all of the fake bullshit lies and intelligence that was made up to try to get Trump, the multiple assassination attempts, all these different things. Like, God bless the guy. He's like literally like fucking, the guy has like lube all over his body. Everything just like fucking rubs right off of him. Like nothing can land on this guy. Whatever they throw at him, whether it's bullets, he's like,
Yeah.
He's got KY jelly on his ear and it's just like, oh, a little bit of blood, I mean, it's honestly kind of astounding, but yeah, I mean, like, I'm not surprised at all that they would just make shit up, and it's because that's what they've done on literally everything. Without any firm evidence or
can anybody push back on that? Because I don't want to keep interrupting, but I have to push back on that.
you have to push back on what?
What you're saying, because what you're
Which
saying
part?
is just
What I'm saying essentially is that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Yeah, it's easy to say when the narrative isn't being manufactured by Intel, right? They control the information that rises to the surface. So what we're left to do is try to piece pieces together right, through investigative journalism, because the pools have been obfuscated, right? But essentially what we're seeing here is much more of the same. The deep state is still fully controlling the plot. And you can make a hero out of Trump all you want, but what he's shown is that he's covering.
No, I'm not going to say they're fully controlling the plot anymore.
I don't think they're controlling the plot at all.
Did you not see how he handled that? But go ahead.
He's obviously furious, as he usually is.
I mean, he went off on a bunch of the reporters and whatnot, but that was all like corporate media, and I haven't watched that stuff in months. Like I haven't turned on the TV. Like the Central Intelligence Agencies are not controlling the plot as I'm reading it, as much as they do control any of it. I'm not paying attention to any of that crap because it's to the point where I won't pay attention because it's not even about being uninformed. I'm misinformed. So in order to avoid the misinformation, I just ignore it.
Yeah.
So sure, there's a bunch of the older population, I'm sure, still watching it, but they're the older population. They're phasing out. The Central Intelligence Agency's grasp on the plot has never been weaker.
I agree with that completely, wholeheartedly.
Not saying it's not there, but
what do you got, Alessandro? What are your thoughts?
I mean, this is what should happen in the legal space. I mean, essentially, they put forward something without putting forward evidence. So Trump has, in his right, the ability and really should sort of sue them for needing to bring evidence forward. I think they'll he probably knew about it beforehand. I think my general take is any journalist would usually call and ask for a comment. They would basically be like, hey, we've got this.
We're running this story on this day,
And obviously they were like, no comment. Like, we're not going to address this. And so they had a heads up on this. I think that, 20 years ago in journalism, I think there used to be the rule of you need 3 sources to sort of verify something before it goes live.
I think it's like 2 sources is 1 or something like that.
You needed at least more than one. And I kind of feel like the world that we're living in is like we are rushing so fast to break news because it gets everybody's attention that we just go with, we got like half.
Anonymous
or
sources.
We got one.
And, there was like, they ran a story about him the other day, and it's like the financial, I think it was like, I can't remember. I think it's called like the Financial Times or some shit. They fucking run this propaganda story, and I read the story immediately. It's like Trump tells people familiar with sources that can you attack Moscow or whatever. Like, runs this fucking total bullshit story. It's like, who the fuck said this? Who the fuck was in the meeting? You just people familiar with the matter. Like, who the fuck are the people familiar with the matter? If you make some crazy ass claim like that, and you better put yourself on the record if you're going to say something like that. And
I mean, a company that does that too many times, I just start blocking them.
It's like Rolling Stones and Vanity Fair and fucking Financial Times. They're just total propaganda
They
outlets.
are, but that's the thing. Trump used to call them out, and now he is becoming them by calling this Epstein thing a hoax, by calling people who are talking about it stupid, by calling them traitors and whatnot. Right? This is the kind of language that the mainstream media fake news used to use.
I think he has a rare political miss on this for sure.
Yeah,
I think the way his messaging has been pretty bad on this issue. I think the reason he was saying that is because of he had knowledge that they were going to publish the story. That's personally what I think.
The reason why this story is relevant is because the Democrats are probably seeing in polling that Epstein is something
they can weaponize this issue
that can potentially fracture elements of the Republican Party.
That's absolutely what's happening.
And so they're looking at it as an opportunity to say like, hey, let's see if we can pull some votes.
That's why they're weaponizing the sources and people that all the liberal writers who work at the Wall Street Journal who ran this story. That's exactly what's happening. You hit the nail on the fucking head, Alessandro.
It is weird
exactly
that was
what it is.
his response to all of those things when it comes to the Epstein stuff. Like, that was one of his main campaign promises is, release everything. And then all of a sudden he's saying, there's nothing there. And it's just, like you said, he handled it very poorly, and it's just weird that that's the way he handled it.
I think I flagged a post today too that said something about like they have evidence that evidence was destroyed by the outgoing administration. I want to see who wrote that post. See if you can track that one down. It's like they don't have the.
That's about the letter.
Yeah, there was something in here. I saw something about it. I don't know. It was just like a small post, but I didn't really pull on the string.
Should we do our farewell tribute to Stephen Colbert as well?
Oh yeah, that made me so happy. That guy has not been funny for 20 years.
Oh wait, is he?
They're canceling his show. Thank God. He was so fucking bad. He was terrible. Awful.
Yeah.
And he was so fucking propagandized. Like, he was just literally like, motherfucker could have been, they should have put the fucking squealer face from Animal Farm on him. I mean, he was so wrong on so many, everything he did. He just became not funny at all. You know, at least Jon Stewart, like Jon Stewart was objectively funny, and he could literally he could kind of, obviously he leaned a certain way, but he could throw punches kind of both ways. And like, I just, you know, I used to watch the fucking Daily Show, even though I like disagree with a lot of his takes. Like, he was still kind of like funny, you know, and Colbert just like fucking never did it and was just literally a straight propagandist.
Yeah.
That was my take. So good news.
When did Julian make that?
Julian Assange. The reason the FBI wouldn't let the Epstein client list come out in court is because if they did, their blackmail would no longer be useful, and the CIA would lose their control over all the powerful people they spent decades setting up. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably, you know, somewhat accurate. You know, I agree with that take, and I really do think this is intelligence connected, and you know, he's kind of like that arm's length guy for multiple different Western alliance, you know, nation states. So I'm not surprised at all. What? Were you able to find that thing about?
No,
you weren't able to find it.
I can't find it right now. I'll keyword search. What was the post saying that you're looking for?
It was just kind of like it was a little thing about how they were. I think it might have been leading a report. Maybe that did that. I mean, my memory could be wrong, but basically saying that they have found evidence. That evidence was deleted. Essentially, there. You know, that was what.
I mean,
the problem. And I think Daryl Cooper actually did do a good job explaining, like, you know, people who think there's just some list that's going to just be sitting there and like all this stuff. He's like,
what's funny is the FBI has a protocol for handling information, right? A very, very structured, strict protocol where everything's handled with gloves, right? But just so happens to be that for this case that implicates all aisles of the party, they, you know, recklessly lost and damaged and destroyed evidence. But I think, this just is going to expose the depth of corruption, and it is a unifying thing because it's not a political thing. This is about protecting kids, and you can call it a national security thing, okay, sure. But when it goes to that point where there's kids involved, then they have lost their privilege to be the ruling, you know, the ruling entity. And I think that this is our opportunity as a people to come together and say, it's time for these new structures, right? For these new protocols to be implemented, because human nature is as we know, and we fixed the money. Now let's fix our voting system. Let's fix our, you know, our tax structure so that we can have that on an immutable blockchain. And I don't think there's a better time and a better, you know, moment to capitalize on than this. And that's why I won't let off of it, because I think that this really does show that the central bankers essentially can get away with anything. If they're actively covering for pedophiles, what will they not do?
If you'd like to contribute to the Paul Benjamin campaign fund, please text now.
No, contribute to Maddie, because he's the one who's gonna. He's the one who's gonna lead the charge.
I think leading the charge. I mean, again,
that was brilliant.
This is why, like, I'm mainly focused on fixing the money, and I think Bitcoin is so important for that, right? But you know, as a token of the same coin, I mean, it's like. I can't remember who said it, but like these intelligence agencies, if you just look back at like see what they've done over the past 100 years, and you look at like the stuff that's declassified now, it's like you're like, that's naive. Like, yeah, they follow a protocol. Like, go look at the fucking, you know, mind control experiments they were doing, Iran Contra, like all the shit. It's like these motherfuckers, the ends justify means no matter what it is. Like, so the only way, somebody said like you essentially tear them up and scatter them to the wind. I can't remember who made that quote.
John F. Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy. Yeah. I mean, so like that's what you have to do here. That's the only way like to get this shit to stop. And I think the FBI and the CIA should be combined into one agency. It should be cut like 90%, and that the 10% of the remaining staff should solely be brought under the military and solely focus on making sure our borders are secure. There's no terrorist attacks. Like none of this other shit that they've been doing. Like fuck all that. Fuck all this like covert operations and all this crazy shit. Like. You can spy on other countries to see if they're going to attack us. Aside from that, don't try to like manipulate and do all this shit. You know, that's it. And they should answer to the president of the United States. And that just hasn't been the case. And, you know, the founding fathers, again, would be rolling over in their grave to see the fucking excesses that have formed in all of these agencies that were never supposed to be part of the United States, that, you know, they were never authorized, that they would have like literally, they would have fought another revolution to prevent. That's just where we're at today. So, you know, you've got to just, that would be the only way to solve this issue and this problem. I think is to totally get rid of these intelligence agencies and, you know, bring them under the Pentagon supervision. So it's just a military, it's part of the military. And their sole job is to fucking protect the United States, not to do regime change, not to do all this crazy shit, not to, you know, be bribing people. And, you know, that's just what it is right now.
Well, I mean, no matter what, if you're saying their job is going to be to protect the United States, okay, well, how do you protect the United States?
Protect the United States from imminent danger, attack, stuff like 9/11, stuff like fucking a terrorist attack, somebody blowing up a subway.
Okay, all right, we've got Kim Jong-un that's currently trying to develop a nuke. What if he's finally getting close? And to protect the United States, you get rid of Kim Jong-un, get another regime in there. You're protecting the United States.
So that would have to be signed off on the president who's elected by the people if he approves that mission. The way it stands now is that these regime changes kind of all happen behind the scenes, and, you know, the president necessarily has a say in it. The president necessarily doesn't even know what's going on. The person changes every 4 years.
What if that's intentional? So there's plausible deniability. Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, I think that's what's happening right now. Is that it is intentional. They don't want the president to have all the information. They don't want to be. These people have been in these. They're unelected
I would argue
bureaucrats.
the president doesn't want anything to do with some of the stuff too.
Of course, yeah. But I mean, you know, but that is why the president is elected to do those things, because we put him in control of that. So if they do that, if they do the regime change, it has to be signed off by the fucking president, duly elected by the people.
No, you're attacking the problem in a completely ineffective way, because you can't legislate morality. We have to go back to having a moral people, a moral populace, and that's the only way to actually have it happen, is if people who are willing to stand up against what's wrong, like Julian Assange, like Snowden, and call these things out, and then have a populace that will actually respond to it. We you know, how many of us?
I mean, it's a tough thing to say, because, you know, we literally dropped nukes on millions of people to end World War II. So like you make the argument that who we elected at the time made a very immoral decision to do that, and, you know, millions of people died. But the question was, did it save millions of people? So, you know, there's all of these factors. But at the end of the day, that was signed off on by the president of the United States. In the same way, if we do regime change and it's done by an FBI on a mission for 20 years and the CIA, like, the president should have a say in that, and he should have to put his fucking name on it and say, look, I'm making the tough call here.
That's what the auto pen's for, though.
Yeah. I agree that there should be an element of, like, you know, the buck stops with this person and it should be signed all the way up. I think that like the nature of probably Cloak and Dagger is that, you know, stuff will need to probably toe the line to develop assets. And so, like, I understand why we have sort of gotten to the point that we've gotten to now, which is just sort of like, you know, a lot of moral trade-offs that people have been willing to make.
It's all about
there's no
incrementally.
transparency.
Like, oh, you know, I don't feel good about this, but this is what we're going to do for the greater good. And then you just go inch by inch by inch. And then eventually you get to where you have intelligence agencies running pedophile rings.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. With no accountability.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy. It's absolutely insane. All right, let's look at, this is a great quote by Ayn Rand. I love reading this quote from Atlas Shrugged. When you see that in order to produce, you need to obtain permission from men who produce nothing. When you see that money is flowing to those who deal, not in goods, but in favors. When you see that men get richer by graft and by pull than by work, and your laws don't protect you against them, but protect them against you. When you see a corruption being rewarded and honesty becoming a self-sacrifice, you may know that your society is doomed. Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged. Such a great book.
Yeah,
75 years ago.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Such a fantastic book. Let's move.
I really like. There's a great speech by Michael Saylor during the Ayn Rand Atlas Shrugged like annual convention.
Really?
Yeah. And it's well worth watching. I think it's like 10-15 minutes. So it's a little too long for right now. But he does this fantastic analogy of how sort of like Galt's Gulch is really like the sort of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Galt's gut.
Yeah.
Like your opportunity to sort of like you know, vote out of the system.
You're not wrong.
And so, but well worth a watch if you guys have some time. It's probably on X somewhere.
I got to read those books.
Yeah, there's some great ones.
Just have AI breeze it for you.
Paul, can you find the, it looks like finally NPR, NPS, PBS, and all these, you know, these purely extremely biased media organizations that are essentially being funded by the government are finally getting defunded with the DOGE cuts. Love to see it. It looks like, you know, there's been all this stuff talking about nothing from DOGE, blah, blah, blah. It was all a waste. Well, apparently it has not been a waste. It looks like Rand Paul had a quote today where he basically said, like, look, you know, the president said he was going to do this, and he did do this. Yeah, it's funny. It's like, You see this propagandist Brian Stelter. PBS and NPR stations are on the verge of losing the federal funding that has helped keep them on the air for decades. Here's what will happen if lawmakers zero out the money. So he says all this, and then like somebody pulls an earlier post from him saying like, yeah, these organizations aren't mainly funded by the government. And
Brian Stelter.
yeah, he's just classic. NPR and PBS quit Twitter in 2023 after being labeled government-funded media, arguing the funding they received is so trivial as to render such a designation unfair and inaccurate. Now we're told the potential loss of the allegedly trivial funding poses an existential threat. This is so classic. Just absurd. Totally absurd.
Say whatever they have to get their way.
Yeah, just lie.
What does that mean?
lie.
No more Sesame Street? Is that like the big?
I don't know.
I think that's PBS, right? Sesame Street.
Yeah, I don't know. I think,
but someone's picking them up, right? Isn't like I heard Netflix is going to come to the rescue.
Netflix will come to the rescue.
Oh no, they're gonna have like a transgendered Muppet now.
We absolutely need government funding, but also don't call us government funded is not a serious position. By a partisan 216 to 213 vote, the House approved President Trump's request to pull back $8 billion in foreign aid and all $1.1 billion set aside for NPR, PBS, and their stations for the next 2 years. Congress has now unraveled its role in public media stretching back more than half a century.
Yay.
Well, good. I mean, the government should not be funding propaganda. I mean, that's literally like ridiculous. Media should be independent, and that's the whole point of media is to be fucking independent.
That's crazy though. Let's take a second and break that down. Right, $1 billion over 2 years, so $500 million, $600 million between NPR and PBS. So probably about $300 million.
That is insane amount of money.
What is their staff? There's no way.
There's no way. That's fucking insane. It's fucking. It's just complete. Like that's money laundering. Like what is like even if they have 500 people writing stories on the team, like that's still like a couple million. That's like what 20 million. I mean, like where's the other 280 million go?
How did these things even get passed to start with? Like what were the arguments for the Congress back in I don't know the 70s or whatever, saying, oh, we need to give money to this TV show for kids shows?
It's just like fraud. I don't know.
How did no one ever just look at that and go,
no,
why?
Like read Animal Farm. No, the government shouldn't be paying to run media. Like it's ridiculous. If there's not a market demand for that media, it's just propaganda. Like that's what it is. So like this is a prime example of like why they wouldn't run the Hunter Biden laptop story. Why like they basically said this is fake news and like it changed the course of a potential election potentially, right? So there's all these factors that it's just so ridiculous that this conversation even needs to be had. And it's crazy that this had to be a partisan vote that although 216 to 213 to get this done. I mean it's just absurd.
Close.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy. But that being said, if you can find the Rand Paul quote,
all right. Well, I mean it means it's past the House, but now it's got to get past the Senate. So hopefully it doesn't die.
No, I think this is done. I think it was there was.
Oh, like it already passed the Senate.
I think it's already done. Yeah, I think it already passed both.
Okay.
I think it only needed to do one or something. I don't.
No, it needs to pass both.
It needs to pass both. Yeah, I think it's done. He says encourage POTUS in January to send us the DOGE cuts to vote on.
It's done and official.
He did, and we did. Congratulations to the president. Congratulations to President Trump on getting the first rescission package passed in more than 30 years. Let's do it again. Can you believe this is the first time in 30 fucking years that there's been a rescission of like, hey, we pass all this bullshit and we look at it and we're like, why is there $8 billion going here? Why is there $10 billion going here? Why is there, $3 billion going to these, news agencies or whatever? This is the first time in 30 years that the Congress has actually like looked at a budget after they passed it and like, you know what, this is obviously fraudulent bullshit and the taxpayer shouldn't be paying for this. Like that blows my mind. That honestly blows my mind. So,
I mean, we had 3 previous Republican administrations at the same time.
Yeah. It's just then again, kind of uniparty, like part of the problem,
Right. But then even that said, back 30 years ago when it was Clinton that was running the show, I think the only reason there was any cuts then was because it was a largely Republican Congress.
Well, it was, and to Clinton's credit, he did do a good job on that front, and I think he had a lot of bipartisan support. I think he was a very moderate Democrat, kind of like how Trump is now in a lot of ways. Trump is a little bit more, I wouldn't say quite, as Clinton-esque, but very similar in some ways, very, very, very similar.
At least in policy positions.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah. You're not wrong. So, nice to see it. Nice to see it. Someone says you don't hate them enough. That is true. But trust me, we do. Actually, we do. Oh man, this is an interesting one. So what happened after 1970? I think, this is so important. Like, I really believe that so much is connected to the corruption of the money in our country. Like, how in the hell like people worry about healthcare and all this stuff. And if you just like look at this, like this is just a prime example of like, holy shit, something is insanely wrong here, right? Like, so like in 1970, if you look at the growth in physicians, like obviously the population has been going up. So you see physicians have been slowly growing, right? Like we've been getting more and more doctors over the course of, 50 years. But then if you look at the cost of administrators, means that other people that are involved in the process of a patient and a doctor, like it's just parabolic skyrocket, right? And where's all this money coming from? Well, I bet you a lot of it's being printed. So after 1971 is this money that's being printed by the government and it's put in the budget, and it's gotten so far out of hand, and people are like, why is healthcare so expensive?
I think
this is your answer.
Another issue that we've had in just this society wise is a lowering of risk tolerance. People are, yes, there's risk out there, and you have to be willing to tolerate some of it to live in this world.
Yeah.
Because anytime anything goes wrong in a hospital, they come out with a bunch of new forms that everyone has to sign in order to avoid the risk or mitigate the risk. And all that does is just put more paperwork on the physicians and doesn't really do anything to help the process. Now that all of a sudden, instead of paying attention to the patient, they're paying attention to their forms and just doing box checking exercises.
Yeah.
And so now you're saying, oh, we need to do this to avoid risk. And there's always improvements to be made, but just adding 4 more forms in the daily life of the doctor doesn't help.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the big culprit here is insurance agencies, ultimately. I mean, a lot of these administrators are basically like going back and forth with insurance to make sure that procedures can get approved. And so, yeah, I mean, it's basically they're all doing forms and on the phone all day.
It's just gotten really out of hand.
Oh, yeah. I have a client that said he just had to go hire another company to help him push through the paperwork for the insurance agencies so he can get paid for the work he's already done. And he's like, yeah, it costs me thousands every year. And just to try and get reimbursed for stuff he's done. That's why we need to go back to a cash-based system when it comes to your medical care. Screw the insurance company, just pay the doctor directly.
Not a bad plan. Obviously, there's some things, maybe just have like kind of like a catastrophic insurance type thing.
If I could, I would.
Yeah.
Because now it's illegal for me to have just a strictly catastrophic insurance plan.
Which is insane. It's totally insane.
It is wild. The one thing, healthcare, I guess, story is like you actually have a very different price point if you pay out of pocket yourself for a particular procedure than you do if it actually goes to insurance.
There's a surgical center in Oklahoma where they put their prices online for all of the stuff, and it's like an appendectomy. It's like $2,000 or $3,000.
Here it is. Go up, Paul. I found that story I was looking for earlier. Go up. Scroll up right above there. There it is. Leading report. So Representative Anna Paulina Luna claims to have, sorry to interrupt this topic, but I know I was talking about this earlier, claims to have evidence that the Biden DOJ destroyed materials related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. So obviously, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. The same thing that I say about everything else is like, show us the money, show us the evidence about all claims, right? So, but I would not be surprised whatsoever.
Grok has a good take on this.
What's the question? What is it responding to? Grok, how many contradictions has the government made on the Epstein case? The U.S. government has issued at least 6 major contradictions on the Epstein case. Bondi's 2025 claim of reviewing a client list versus DOJ memo denying its existence. Promises a full file release versus refusal to disclose more. Official suicide ruling versus autopsy inconsistencies. Broken hyoid bone suggesting homicide. 2008 plea deal leniency despite evidence of 36 victims. Guards filed logs and camera failures versus no foul play claim. 2025 footage modifications despite raw assertion. These fuel ongoing. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, obviously.
I also heard that the raw footage wasn't just missing a minute.
We talked
it was
about
missing
this.
3 minutes.
We talked about this yesterday on Wednesday. Yeah, so I guess there was somebody named MJ something. Some account used Adobe Premiere, and supposedly if there's 3 minutes missing, that's supposedly what they found, and there was multiple modifications of the footage. So the story is just not adding up. I mean, there's just so much, circumstantial evidence leading up that this is some intelligence asset of some sort, So, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty.
Well,
pretty
it just
obvious
means the
point.
mantra holds true. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
I wonder what the evidence is that this woman has. If it's like a text message or some sort of like.
Yeah, I mean, we can only speculate at this point. I mean, we literally can only speculate. I mean, who knows? Maybe what Pam Bondi released was what was left. Maybe she's like, oh, this is the file that we had, and this is what we released, right? So I think actually there was metadata evidence to show the years that it was edited. I have to go back and look at this. Maybe you can ask Grok.
I mean, if
to do research on this, maybe that's what they're talking about here. Who knows?
If they do have evidence that the previous administration was destroying evidence, then anyone that was even had look at that file needs to go to jail.
I mean, there's evidence that they manufactured and made up evidence, like to literally go get Trump, like before even the 2016 election.
That was a different issue, though, and yeah, political, not approving it. But I'm just saying that was completely different.
But
issue.
that was literally the intelligence agency people, the FBI or whatever, going to like Hillary Clinton and like working with the campaign of the Obamas and being like, hey, like we're gonna make up this dossier and it's a bunch of fake reports that we haven't substantiated, and we're gonna use this as the basis to go spy on Trump, so we can try to say he's a Russian spy, even though he's like been on Celebrity Apprentice for 20 years. I mean, you literally just can't even make it. It's like fucking what's that Starsky? It's like some Starsky and Hutch shit. Like this is just how corrupt these people are. I mean, it's like the ends justify the means no matter what. I mean, that's what they're doing here. So like it would not surprise me. Like you can't trust a fucking word they say about anything. Like you just can't trust anything. So, you know, like it's just crazy. It's just insane. So that's my thought.
Open the books.
Open the book.
I want to see everything.
Show it all, baby.
Just
Show it all. Well, we gotta see.
Let Paul take a few weekends to just dig through all this.
I'm gonna send him. We're gonna send. We're gonna
find out.
We're gonna
what is
send him
going
up to
on.
the. We're gonna send him with Bongino and.
Oh my gosh. See, I feel bad for Dan Bongino and Cash Patel because those guys,
man.
they really came in with good intentions, and then you see how drastically their approach and their their overall demeanor shifted, and that is honestly, I think it's because they realized that it would truly be the end of them if they were to actually hold these people accountable.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean by immoral people, because even if it was the end of them, like the moral thing to do is to still come out and
I agree,
expose it.
but that's
And
the thing. They're probably threatening their families.
I agree.
right?
I know. I understand that. But even still, people.
See, I agree with you. Like somebody's got to take the fall, right? But here's the thing: right now we have the opportunity where there's great, like there's a national mandate for transparency, and they can rally behind that. They're not alone, right? If anything happens to them now, there will be justice because the people will not. They essentially it's going to spark a revolution. But I think the position they're in is, like I heard someone say, what would you prefer? The Epstein client list to be revealed and, prosecuted, or World War III? Like, which are you okay with World War III being an outcome of the Epstein list being revealed?
I'm not.
Right, and that's what people are saying. They're like, okay, this is a possible outcome.
Yeah.
That our actual that the blowback that this will have will be so severe that there will be no recovery.
Yeah, I'm not okay with
If,
that.
if our country continuing to persist requires the acceptance of pedophile rings at the top echelons, it better for our country to be destroyed.
It's a good point. It's an interesting
fucking
point.
A, right? Like,
But I got kids, man.
That's
so-
really where it
I
comes down
don't.
to. It's like
I
if
hear
our
you. I hear
leadership
you.
is
But
complicit.
Yeah, I don't want to have a country in which that is required for my child. to
Right, I
be
hear you,
here.
but then we all default back to barbarianism, animal. It'll set us back to where there will be, like it's really too bad. Don't get
The
me wrong,
Roman
right?
Empire fell, and yet we're still here where we're sitting in a room with air conditioning, computers, and microphones. Okay, empires
Right.
fall, and it
Yeah.
shit sucks for a while, and I don't want that.
Honestly, I feel like because of how divided we are as a people, that like what Elon Musk said, if we don't capitalize on the infrastructure in place, we will not become a multiplanetary species. Like all odds are off. Like essentially, all bets are off. And I do think we are at a fork in the road where what I really genuinely hope for is that the good people in this administration are trying to cover to avoid catastrophe, but behind the scenes are going to start actually fucking cleaning house. But until I see that, I've been holding out for so long, right? To only be essentially told that I'm stupid for talking about this.
All right.
That at this point,
and point in your cap for that one is yes, they went and prosecuted all the people doing Medicare fraud.
So yeah, I mean, they've started to do some stuff.
So
We
there
get the
has
DOGE cuts.
been
We're
some
stopping to fund
things.
U.S. aid and propaganda. So there are things happening. It's been 6 months, right? We've got
Right.
4 years. So there have been some things happening. They are starting to investigate. Look what Tulsi released today about, obviously all of the intelligence bullshit that they were manufacturing and making up. So yeah, I mean, I would
But
expect.
it's also very likely that all this Epstein stuff is just a massive mess and
Yeah.
extremely hard for someone to sort of reverse engineer the entire story in order to put it out in the hands of the public. I mean, if someone else 5 years ago screwed around with the footage and that footage is gone.
I just listened to 2.5 hours of fucking this podcast between Tucker and the other guy, this Daryl guy. And it's like, I have more questions than answers. I mean, there's like this is circumstantial, this is circumstantial. Like, but what you can kind of piece together from all of it is like there's like intelligence connections here. He's like laundering money for billionaires and doing certain things, and probably like doing some intelligence stuff, some honeypots, some traps, right? Like the guy seemed like a total psychopath, sociopath, was stealing from people, and it's fucking just total crazy corruption, crazy shit. Yeah. So yeah,
It's
I mean
the
that's
moral
just kind of
decay,
where we're at.
just absolute moral decay at the highest places, and this is where we have to demand better. And I guess we're gonna find out here in the next few months to years whether or not there's a fighting chance. But what my fear is that if we let off now, that it will never change. They'll only become more emboldened. Given that, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the problems we have as Americans is we want things now. We like the flashy. We like instant results and all that other stuff. And it would be good if we could have some patience on this. But at the same time, if we're patient, things could get put off to the side, put in the background, and then it drops, and then nothing actually happens.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Harry Lancet says Trump hasn't arrested a single perpetrator. It's all fake and gay.
I don't know. Did they? Were there arrests for some of the stuff that we've seen so far?
For the Medicare stuff?
Yeah, I think they arrested.
I only know about the big
fraudulent
announcement, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll follow up and see. I mean, again, it's 6 months. Let's give it. I think the midterms would be like a good. It'll be like a good like reflection point to see where things are at, how many things are accomplished. I mean, like again. By and large, I'm extremely pleased with this presidency, whether it's from the tax policy, whether it's from the total cessation of illegal immigration at the border, whether it's from all of the crypto stuff we have today, the ending of choke point, the political appointments, the kind of like the broad tent of the RFK Juniors on the health side of things. Even today there was this big thing about even today, like this whole big thing about like. Hey, the WHO, we basically said, no, go fuck yourself. We're not giving you any power to do any kind of thing. It's just absolutely insane.
It's been 7
go down. We got to talk about this one. So this is this fucking totally incompetent governor of Illinois. I mean, this guy is a total absolute pig and clown. I mean, this is the type of corruption and bullshit that's happening. Look at this. So in their budget right now in Illinois, the taxpayer is basically, this is like just total fraud. So they have $500,000, $500,000 going to literally a college that has been closed for 3 years. So who gets that money? What happens with it? I mean, this is like the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up.
Okay, hold on. To play devil's advocate slightly on this one.
Oh, let's hear it.
If you have like hundreds of thousands of rows of things that you're reviewing to actually have to pay stuff.
Yeah.
They're just going to go off of what the previous people approved. Like, oh, they're sending this college money. Okay, stamped because they don't have the time to investigate and all those things.
How can you send $500,000 without taking 5 minutes to like search a fucking?
Because there's 10,000 items on there.
But isn't that what their job? There's got to be more than 2 guys. I mean, look at the budget. They've got all these politicians and bureaucrats. Like the State Department was crying the other day because they've increased their employee count from like 50,000 to 80,000, 85,000 in like fucking 3 years, and then 2,000 of them got fired. They go back down to 83,000, and they literally did a whole like cry-a-thon about it. So I mean, like I'm sorry. I'm just not buying that.
A little bit of devil's advocate. So either way, it's wrong and needs to be investigated. I'm not necessarily going to throw them under the bus for corruption. Whoever was taking the money and not responding about that, corrupt, doing it fraudulently. But it's the largesse of the government where all the details get lost.
Yeah, I don't know how you can lose $500,000.
We shouldn't be giving $500,000 to a college either.
Yeah, it's just insane. It's just absolutely insane. Just totally crazy. All right, let's take us to our next take, guys. I got to get out of here in a couple minutes, so let's get a couple more here. So it looks like, I think we're down a little bit here. Let's see, what is this one? I think we... Oh, here we go. So look at this. Reddit users in the UK. I like this Twitter profile. Reclaim the Net HQ. Reddit users in the UK must submit a selfie or government ID to access certain content. Per the UK's new censorship law, the Online Safety Act. This means real-world identity is now being tied to online speech. Anonymity is being quietly replaced with verification. I mean, again, this is why we have tools like VPNs. I mean, but the absurdity of this is just so.
Well, did anyone?
It's like George Orwell would literally be blushing right now if he was reading some of the shit that's happening in the UK.
Who here read Ender's Game? because in that book they had an online like, internet or something, and you could access that from with anything. But if you wanted to have like an account that was taken seriously or have some more legitimacy, you have to have proof that you are who you say you are. And I think there's some credence to that. Like, yes, you can be anonymous and say whatever you want, but if you want people to take you even more serious, maybe you need to put your face up there so actually you have consequences. And
well, proof of human, I think that's what we see on X. I mean, you have a verification badge and, you kind of verify your account. So there is some level of that, I guess.
Accountability.
Yeah. But we're just talking about like, accessing information on the internet, like, or this is, hateful information, or this is something else.
This is just a forum where people can communicate about stuff. It's wild to me that the United Kingdom is, I mean, again, I don't think this is their first policy that they've done on this. I think I remember reading that the UK was doing something like sending police officers to people's homes based on Facebook posts.
That's what they're doing. They're arresting.
Well, that happens here too with the FBI. If you're saying, "Oh, I'm going to go blow up a federal,"
no, but they're actually like, which is crazy. The FBI should.
But that the case in the UK was like
throwing up a building is one thing, right? Like that's what they should be doing. But the FBI also recently in the past 4 years was going after people for making like posts that were like discriminatory or like hateful or whatever, which is insane. Like that's not your fucking job. Like if some guy says fuck this or fuck that, like leave him the fuck alone. Like he's venting. Like, you might not agree with what he says, you might hate it, but whatever, right? It's like just speech that you hate, right? It's like ridiculous.
You can't just like pick websites that have a lot of traffic and then be like, okay, well we need ID for this one because like, we've got it for Facebook, we've got it for this one.
The whole thing is
now
absurd.
need to do Reddit too.
Yeah, the whole thing. But the UK, they're actually arresting people for like complaining about the school and like it's just like, or hey, I don't want any immigrants here. Like they can literally send you to jail for that. They were sending like 70-year-olds to jail for like for venting on Facebook that they didn't want immigrants in their country or whatever it may be. Like that's literally some George Orwell shit. Like it's insane. And I think I read they arrested 10,000 people over this already, and then they're taking pedophiles and murderers and taking them out of the jail to make room for the thought police. Just totally like you can't even make it up. It's just they're so cooked. They're so cooked in the like they're literally so cooked in the UK.
Yeah,
so cooked.
They're screwed.
They're screwed.
We also did it right here though 2 years ago. Remember how cool that vaccine game was?
Oh
or
yeah.
Any other types of alternative things?
Yep.
Yeah, but different states had different levels of.
We were fine here in Florida. It
compliance.
was a different world that we were living in. When I saw other people, I'm like, what the hell? It's like it's different reality
And
you're living in.
not only that, like, all right, in Florida, I had family here, so that's what I heard about it. And it's just like, all right, 2 weeks, sure, because we don't know what the hell.
That's what we did. We kind of were like,
I think
2
it
weeks.
went for like a month, and then after that, Florida was like, now we're done with this.
Yeah.
Whereas where I was in Washington, no, that was going for months.
That's insane.
Yes.
Hawaii was crazy. Hawaii, if you had someone in your house that was unvaccinated, they would come and check up on you once a week to make sure that you never left and that person was at home.
Wow, that is absolutely insane. That's like some Gestapo shit.
So that was the test balloon
This is
for
like
really
some
all of
literal-
this.
yeah, I mean,
so
like,
the
this is
UK's
just
just
totally-
evolved it into.
So Michael
whole
Malice
EU.
always has a thing he says about COVID, and he's like, some very bad people got some very valuable data on what the American populace will accept.
Yeah.
But I think there's a corollary of the American populace got a very good amount of test data of what the government will try and do to them if they let them.
That's a good point. Yeah, well, that ain't going to happen again.
Yeah, because I came back from Washington, came here, and people were saying, oh, you can't come into our store without a mask. And I'd either ignore them and just keep, or they here's a mask. And I just ignore them and walk past them. Or they say, you can't come in without a mask. And I just turned around and said, all right, fine,
just leave.
I'm out.
Sure, yeah. These people are insane.
My economics professor would always say, the best way is to just vote with your feet.
Yeah.
So post-pandemic,
Well, that's what we
I
saw.
left New York, and I was like, I'm moving
That's
to Florida.
literally what we saw, though. Like in Florida and Texas got like millions of people. And so that's like we literally saw that exact thing play out. And, it's very evident. It's very fucking evident.
So why is Reddit continuing then to enforce whatever the UK's what do they call it? Online Safety Act. Why would Reddit play along?
Well,
I
because
don't know, Reddit's like
the UK government's forcing them to do it in order for them to be available in the UK.
Reddit's a very
So it
liberal
hasn't changed. It was just like
platform as well, too.
Instagram or
Like, in a sense,
Facebook in the
like, a lot of
States.
leftists.
Yeah.
It's
And anything else.
and Reddit's very liberal. So
I read
they're
some
more
of
than
these
happy
like
to.
I go into some of these Reddit like groups and like read some of the chats. I'm like, these people are living in a fucking different reality. Like this is just like I just go there to like observe. It's almost like an anthropological
It
experiment.
fascinates
I'm
me.
very
There's still
fascinating.
posts about people saying no one's wearing a mask.
I
and it
know.
upsets
It's like
me.
I know what you're talking about. I'm like, what is like? Where are these people? Is this like bots talking
I was
to each
gonna say
other? Or
this is AI or something.
Is this really
because
like?
this is absurd.
Speaking of AI, JMD says maybe AI could review the 10,000 line of items to find the fraud. Wouldn't that be a good idea? Me and Kyle had a call this week that with a AI kind of company that's doing this for bookkeeping called Uplink AI. So we're in talks with them to potentially look over our stuff. stuff and to categorize and do these different things. But yeah, you could very easily have AI and say, hey, find me something with some of the new high end shit, like some of the newest, like with Super Grok and Grok 4 and Grok 4 Super Heavy. Like, you could be like, hey, find money going to places that are out of business or, colleges that don't exist anymore. I mean, that would be a pretty easy query to do. And it's like that we're at that point now where we can. So, again, the person ultimately still is responsible for reviewing it and doing it, but that would be a good start.
Yeah.
Jeff, my name is Jeff. He says, Online Safety Act. Great name to make someone feel good before they upload their government idea to the web. You're safe. Please upload. Please do some KYC AML so we can create a massive honeypot of user data that's then just going to turn around and get hacked because the government's incompetent as fucked and they're basically deputizing random websites to restore people's private information, which is a whole nother crazy angle of the story. It's just so absurd. I think that was like the big thing of the Samurai. I think the Tornado Cash case or the Samurai case going on right now, where they're just like basically saying like, oh, you guys didn't do KYC AML and all this stuff. And like people are like basically trying to use that as like the main argument against this. And it's like the whole idea of KYC AML is so cooked. It's like the Thomas Sowell quote I always say, like these policies and programs are judged by their intention, not their result. Whereas like KYC AML is a prime example where 99% of the criminals still slip through and do everything. And all it does is put a massive burden on the average person, the average law-abiding citizen. And then it just creates huge honeypots of user information that are constantly hacked, constantly sold on the dark web. And people are getting stolen from. Grandma's getting exploited. She's getting phished. I mean, it's just a terrible policy and it has to end. And hopefully we can repeal that at some point. All right. Let's have one more take because I got to run here. Jack Attack, why don't you pick something out here? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was going to touch back on, we were just mentioning the Reddit enforcing the UK out there. So then what kind of pressure is coming up against X? As they've been able to withstand it, or really do they fall under the same type of pressures?
Oh, they're falling under the pressures. It happened in Brazil.
I think it was Brazil is one of the worst offenders. India recently as well.
They
are fighting back legally in those countries, but if the country basically says, hey, we're going to shut off access to, 1 billion people. If you don't censor these 20 accounts or shut them down, X will comply, but then they'll sue or they'll go through the legal pathway. And then,
so what Musk is doing is he's sending Starlinks to those countries. So he owns the infrastructure and says, I won't shut this off. I don't know if that's what he's actually doing. But he could.
I mean, you
That's
access
a strategy,
to it,
yeah.
VPN can get around it, of course, but yeah, I mean, you kind of have to. It sucks, It really does suck to have to play ball if you're if you're a huge corporation. And Elon's trying to navigate it, but yeah, it sucks.
I mean, hopefully it's a fantastic way to lose votes in these countries, so that people start to say, "Wait, I used X, now I can't use it," and so I want to vote for a different politician.
If they have secure elections,
that's true.
We'll close out with this gentleman, Thomas Sowell, one of my favorites, all-time favorites. Inflation is a quiet but effective way for the government to transfer resources from the people to itself without raising taxes.
Yep, inflation, the hidden tax.
You guys have any closing thoughts? Want to let the people know where to find you?
No closing thoughts. Right now, you can't really find me too easily on the web. I'm trying to fix that. But so I'm just signing off as GDK here.
What about your OnlyFans account? You want to let the people in on it?
Not
what
ready
a modest,
for my debut.
What a modest guy. What a modest guy.
My closing take is inflation is real. It's something to be mindful of, and please do not just store money in a checking account and explore other alternatives. It doesn't have to be Bitcoin, but just don't keep it in a checking account. It is losing value by the day. And so if you want to listen to me more, I'm on X as Alessandro, etc.
If you don't have any money in Bitcoin, have fun staying poor. That's all I got to say. But
that is the classic.
JMD says here, Jack wants to talk about Sesame Street. Jack, do you want to talk about Sesame Street?
So sad it's going to be over with. We'll come up with our own version of Sesame Street right here on the Runway Pod.
All right, guys.
Costumes picked
it has been an absolute pleasure. You can find me at Matty Ice Sensei. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe depending on what platform you're looking on, Rumble or on X. We're mainly live on X, but we also post on Rumble and other platforms. I think YouTube as well, as long as they don't shadow ban us or censor our stream. So it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's a wrap.
The runway